Welcome to Life by Design for Chiropractors, episode 116.
Welcome to Life by Design, the podcast for chiropractors. Here's your host, Dr. Jamie Richards.
Welcome to Life by Design for Chiropractors. I'm your host, Dr. Jamie Richards, and today I bring on Dr. Mike Gibson, and we talk about how to start your dream life project. You know, this is a project that we go into much more detail within the Life by Design Elite program, training camp, and so on. Yet there's a beginning point that's easy to dive into, and I know that it's going to spark a big line of thought in your mind, and it's going to take you down a path that is going to lead to, I think, a lot of great outcomes for you. And in many cases, it could uncover that the practice that you're running right now isn't the practice that's going to lead to the dream life that you have in mind. And I think that's an important thing to know sooner than later. So check that out. And of course, check out the show notes, lifebydesignforchiropractors.com/podcast. And in there, I will put a link to the chiropractic productivity system. This is where we do and outline some of the Dream Life project, as well as many other things that are going to help chiropractors be productive and actually start to live out their dream life. Until next time, enjoy today's episode of Life by Design for Chiropractors. Mike, welcome to Life by Design for Chiropractors.
Thanks, Jamie.
Great to actually see you. And I know people who are catching this on the different feeds, whether it be Instagram preview, Instagram TV, Facebook, wherever these are, this is your first experience with the actual visual, Mike.
Wow, I'm excited. Although, as many of you know, building a new house right now, and I'm excited to have a little bit more of an exciting background. The last time I get this drab, gray, white, nothing behind me.
We'll say goodbye to the nothingness that is behind you right now, and say hello to the new man cave, if you will. And I've actually seen a couple pictures of it. It's going to be great. And Mike's built multiple houses before, and it's not without its challenges along the way, but he always seems to make it work, and they're always very fantastic. So looking forward to checking out your new place, Mike.
Me too.
I bet. So today, guys, I was on a call earlier, and I thought this would be a great topic to break down and get Mike's thoughts about. He loves productivity, so it was perfect. And I really just kind of crafted it as I was going. And we really think about how to create the dream practice and, create the dream life, which we talk about in the Life by Design programs. But I think you can start off more simple, and people get off track and they get, make it too complicated, and then it just ends up all over the place. And so when you really think about it, we have 168 hours a week, right? And of course, depending on how much you want to sleep, give or take, and even if you were to say 6 to 7 hours of sleep a day, or 8 hours a day, or whatever that happens to be, it's going to get you close to about 100 hours, give or take some prep time and things like that. You have about 100 hours, and I love the fact that there is 100. We love that number. In the Perfect Life Planner, we talk about every 90 days being was it 1%, I think, of the 25-year vision. Right. So in this, it's 100%. So if you take your life and you break it down into 100 units, I think an easy place to start for people is, without giving too much thought, without, thinking about the financial side of it, how much do you want to allocate in each area of your life, whether it be career or family or, whatever personal endeavors you have. It gives people a good starting point. So Mike, let me ask you this. This is the question that I think will help people traverse this. When people are engineering their practice or their dream life, what do you see as the biggest pitfall they make in the early stages of this, and in the early stages of trying to figure out, which, by the way, I don't think many people actually think about what type of practice they want. But if they do, have you seen any pitfalls in terms of their starting point for figuring out their dream practice that maybe sends them down the wrong path?
I think there's the biggest one that first comes to mind is just is not starting with the end in mind, really giving some thought as to what the purpose of your business actually is. If we can really wrap our head around why it is that we have the practice, then one of the big ones I think should be, and of course beyond just the value and creation and being productive, which are great for our self-esteem, et cetera, et cetera. I think just realizing that at the end of the day, one of our business biggest functions is to provide for our dream life. And so when we're looking and trying to decide, okay, how do I use these 100 hours? It needs to start with this idea of, well, what does my perfect life look like? And then the second question becomes, what does that cost? And then becomes, okay, what does my business have to do? What do I have to do within my business in order to create that profit in order to fund your dream life? So I think starting with the end in mind, thinking through some of the whys, why do I have this business? What is its objective at the end of the day? And what's its purpose at the end of the day? And when you really think of it in that context, I think it makes it a lot easier to start to decide exactly what you want to use your 100 hours for, and exactly what you need to be accomplishing in that 100 hours to really, look back and reflect and say, hey, you know what? I used my 100 hours appropriately, and as a result of that, I am living my dream life.
So now brings up the question for me, and I know you and I are different, and people listening to the podcast, we're going to have a wide range of people and what their dream life looks like. So if I'm listening to the podcast, I might be thinking, okay, I have 100 hours. I need to, apply 60% or 60 hours or 80 or, to have this dream life. And I think that's one of the first pitfalls I see too, is people automatically assume that to create a dream life, I have the air quotes if you're just listening on the podcast, to create a dream life, they have to do a lot of work. And while you and I would do a lot of work because that's our dream life, my question is it possible, and maybe we get into even some of the numbers just for fun, is it possible to actually have a career portion that is quite small that can still yield a relatively high profit and whatever dream life somebody wants? Could somebody, maybe not to the degree of Tim Ferriss, the 4-hour work week, but could somebody actually have a practice that could be profitable enough to have their dream life at 20 hours or 30 hours? Because I think that's the question a lot of people have, is they get scared by what dream life means.
I think that's it. And I think no matter where you are in practice, which is a really important piece I'm going to come back to, but no matter where you are in practice, one of your biggest objectives should always be, how can I be more efficient? How can I be more productive with less money, less time invested in it, maybe just less of you and more of other people. Start growing a team, right? So really that should always be one of our objectives. When we're reviewing our year and putting together a plan for our business and going through our strategy session, we should always have that in mind. How do I become more efficient with my time, with my money, with my resources, so that I can become more profitable and I can spend more of my time, living the dream life that is outside of my business. And I know that's something that I've always tried to do, is spend less time on my business, yet be more productive and be more profitable at the same time. Now, there's an interesting piece, and worthy of a whole entire different discussion one day, but I think what you're maybe alluding to or getting to, certainly worth thinking about, is where are you in practice? Because I think what does happen is that all this extra time that we get to go and spend on, family time, et cetera, those things are all earned, right? When a lot of times when people look and say, oh, lucky you, Mike, you only practice on Tuesday. Well, listen, I earned that, right? I worked my butt off, and the amount of time that I invested of those 100 hours in my practice, in my business early on, was dramatically more than what it is now. But that was earned because of the success that I had. And part of the success is constantly trying to be more efficient with my time and my money so that I can be more profitable and do spend more time on my other values outside of my business.
It's almost as if there's a couple of things I want to unwrap there. It's almost as if there's, an exponential factor here, in the sense that, let's say you're just using 50 hours as an example. You might use 50 hours, and then if you're training your team, as you said, or other people to scale your business, you still might only need 50 hours, but you're kind of getting double bang for your buck, because then you got other people doing the work, and it might be the same 50 hours for them. You're leveraging their 50 hours and then their 50 hours and their 50 hours. That's one side of it. And then the other side is, and I think this is really you and I, because, here we are talking about, we both practice on Tuesdays now, by the way. So I practice I'm excited about that. So I was like, forget it. I'm going to jump. Here we go. So I practice Tuesdays, same as you. So if you're doing something Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we can hang out if you weren't so far away. But nonetheless, what we tend to do is we don't then just take all that extra time. We could, and we earned it if we wanted to go do anything, lay by the pool, go play golf. We could absolutely do that, and that would be guilt-free. But what we do is then we use that time to reinvest in something else, right? And that comes back to our values. And I think that's the important point here is, yes, my dream life isn't actually working 10 hours a week. That's not my dream life. I actually enjoy the work. I enjoy, as crazy as it sounds, I enjoy getting up at 4:30 in the morning. Like, I like getting here. I can't wait to get here on certain days. And so, there's a lot of options you have, which is maybe what you're getting at. When you earn it, you actually earn the freedom to have more flexibility in those choices.
Yeah, that's great. And actually, brings me back to the other point I wanted to make, which fits perfectly here, is that's really what you need to also do when you're trying to decide how to use those 100 hours. You need to first identify what your values are, and you need to prioritize them in a hierarchy of most important to least important, so that you can make sure that there's congruency there. Because you're right, for some people, if they're in a situation where their business provides for them a dream life and they've got these extra hours, well, for some, golf may be a massive value for them. For others, it might be their kids. For you and I, the reality is, I may only practice on Tuesdays, but I'm going to spend the other days of the week either working on that, my practice, or working on my other businesses, or doing this. Mm-hmm. That's my choice because of my values. And so that's the other piece of it, is not just identifying, what it is that you need financially to live your dream life, but also, I think the other really important piece is, what is it that you value? And are those 100 hours a consistent, congruent reflection of what your values are? That's a really important piece.
So let's go back to the earned it part, because I do know that there's a lot of listeners who are younger, newer in practice. And I also know there's a lot of listeners who have associates and have been working with younger doctors. And this is not to indict people who are, maybe going through this. Well, why can't I have? That's fine. I mean, there was definitely a time in my practice where I was jealous of other people and what they had. Right? I'd look at me like, man, why do I have to do this? And why am I not successful? And of course, we know that mindset doesn't take you anywhere good. So I quickly got away from that mindset and into a new one. But I think there's lots of people listening here. And when you look at the values and then the allocation of time, we're not saying that, if you value family, that from day one, that family needs to get 90% of those hours. We're saying create the dream life, look far in advance. Who knows when you're going to be able to get there? But this is the fun part. If you do the work now, as you were saying, you earn the ability to get there faster. And it leads me back to this Dave Ramsey quote. And I think this will just reinforce it. And you can add your thoughts on this. But it was more of a financial thing. And he would say, and I might mess it up, but live like no one else. Today, live like no one else. So later, you can live like no one else. Right? And that always just stuck with me. I'm like, yeah, that's it. Like, do the work now. So whenever the time is that you can make those choices, you can make the choices to live like no one else then. And I think for a lot of young doctors, that's what they need to hear, is you have to earn it and you have to put in the time and energy. And, I had a friend a long time ago say that your associates, especially business partners, even depending on what level they're involved, they don't see everything, right? There's a transparency that they're not exposed to. And if they don't see it, then they're not going to know that, those things are actually happening in your business.
Oh, for sure. And I think that's really what it comes down to, is that, the work ethic and the time invested, it doesn't mean that it's the same every week, right? It's not like, not like we're suggesting this kind of cookie cutter thing. Like, there's 100 hours and every week I need to spend this amount. Like, it's going to fluctuate and change as our lives change. But, that work ethic and that time invested in growing your business, especially like you said, for all those new docs listening, it's an important piece. And the reality is that that's something that can't be replaced. It really can't be replaced. It's got to be there. That is an ingredient that is a requirement. You can't get around that. But it's going to change. It's going to fluctuate based on what's most important and what's most important to you in one quarter. What value is your highest priority will change from quarter to quarter. It'll certainly change for you from year to year. And it's just important to have that 25-year vision, have that long-term vision, and reverse engineer everything from there.
Yeah, and I think that's the take home for today's episode. Really is, the simplicity of this. And again, we haven't come up with a name for it yet, but we will. This 100-point audit, if you will, of the hours of your day. And the nice thing is, if you're sleeping less, you get to add a few hours to that 100, and it's almost like I get 110%. It's the bonus hours, if you will. And so the starting point is, look at your value systems, and I always like this idea of without giving it too much thought, like without trying to think about it too much, just on a piece of paper, write down 100 at the top, write down the major areas of your life. So with the Perfect Life Planner for us, we've got career, we've got, financial, but probably for simplicity, family, relationships, personal and career, even if you put it in 4 quadrants just to start. I'm not sure if you'd add any more to that, but for simplicity, we got 4 quadrants. Just do a percentage, make it equal 100. Don't worry about that it's hours. Just what percentage of your life, waking life, do you want to allocate to each area? And then take a step back and go, oh, that's interesting. I actually wrote down 30 for my career. Or somebody else might be like, oh, 80. It's like, wow, 80. Okay. I think it's going to uncover a few things about how you actually are going to start piecing this together.
And what I might add, what might be an interesting exercise to add to that at the end and reflect on is, if you've got that quadrant as you've described, going back and over a certain period of time and actually looking to see, okay, what did I end up actually doing, right? Because we're all really good planners. We're all really good at creating a plan and a strategy for the upcoming week, month, quarter, year. But what do we actually accomplish, right? As we look back over what we said we were going to do, where's that accountability? Did we actually follow the plan? And I think that could be super insightful as well.
Yeah, that would actually be interesting. And it'd be as simple, guys, as going to your calendar and just looking at, tracking throughout the day. I know for us, we block in our times and just go back and kind of each week check off what actually got accomplished and start to track that over a week or a month or 90 days and start with your quadrant. And it'd be interesting, as you said, to see how closely you align with that. So yeah, a lot of good stuff in there. I know we'll probably unpack this on future episodes, and I know it's new, but I'd love to get everybody listening in to start thinking of this, because the closer you can approximate your life to your value systems, the happier your life's going to be. And that's really the take home. So guys, go to the show notes, lifebydesignforchiropractors.com/podcast, find today's episode. And as always, thank you for listening in to Life by Design for Chiropractors, the voice of reason in chiropractic.